When I think about it, it's rather a strange story really, and a long story, because I grew up in southwest London and lived there during the war years after coming back from evacuation at Littlehampton. Got bombed and things like that. And when I was 17, I joined a local youth club and played football. We used to go over with my mates over Wimbledon Common and play over there, and I joined the youth team and got really interested. And then later on I played for a team called Barnes United, and we were quite successful in our own way in a local league. Well, then I met Peggy and we decided to get married, and I was working as a rep in London, calling on pubs for Britvic. And just before we were going to get married, I lost my job, of all things. I managed to get a job with a company called Babysham. And they said to me, yes, we can give you a job as a representative, Mr. Humby, but you've got to go and live in East Anglia. So we got married and we came to live near Norwich. Well then, after a couple of years, we cleared off to Canada, Peggy and I, because we decided that we wanted to see something of the world. We lived in Ontario, Toronto for 2 years, and we finished up in Vancouver, one of the most beautiful cities I've ever visited. And then we decided that it was time to come home. Peggy was pregnant, and we moved back to London, and I got a job back with Babysham. And I was working in Bedfordshire, and I joined my old football club, and I used to travel to London on a Sunday and play for them. But then the company said to me, would you like to move back to East Anglia, John? So I said, oh yes please, because I'd always liked East Anglia. And I was passing through Beccles, and I thought, oh, this is a pretty little town. And I saw they had a nice football pitch down there, and I thought, oh, wouldn't mind living here. So we bought a house in Worlingham, and we moved to Worlingham in World Cup year, 1966. And as I was calling on the pubs, I called at the Railway Hotel, and I said to him, they've got a nice football pitch over there. I said, if they need any help, I would be willing to help out on the committee or youth team. The next day, there was a knock on my door, and Jack Constance came round to see me. And he said, I've heard you're interested in joining our football club. So I said, yes, I'd help out. He said, would you become the manager? And I said, well, I've never managed a team, but I've played a lot of football. So I said, I don't know anybody. I'm a complete stranger. He said, Jack said to me, that's why we want somebody from away, so there's no favouritism. I went to their AGM at the public hall. And I always remember a friend of mine now called Jerry Mattet, who I didn't know at the time. And when Jack Constance introduced me to them and he said, this man's going to be our next first team manager, I always remember that Jerry Mattet said, oh, we're going to have an Alf Ramsey, are we? Which I thought, so what have I let myself in for? Anyway, we started training, and down at College Meadow, there weren't many players that turned up. My first training session, I put it in the paper, and I only had about 10 players turned up. And the first few games, we won the first game, but I think we lost the next 7. And I then started to make inquiries about, the quality of players, and people were telling me, oh, there's good Beccles players, but they don't play for Beccles. I stuck it out, and we got some of the players back, and we survived. We were in the 3rd division of the Anglian combination. Dear old Jack died in 1975. He was a lovely man, and he'd played cricket for Beccles and football for Beccles, and he was chairman of both the cricket and the football club. I knew his wife, Kit, but when Jack died, she gave the club a cup called the Jack Constance Cup. And we first played a local side for it, Yarmouth I think it was, but then we decided to ask Norwich City if they would be prepared to send a team down, which they said they would, much to my surprise. And I always remember the first game, they sent down, it was a young side, and included in them was Justin Fashanu, and I've still got the record. And Beccles won 3-1. And I remember Peter Mendham was playing for them, and just as I say, Justin Fashanu. Well, we continued on with this annual game with the Canaries, and over the years they bought You know, some of their, well, a lot of their first team players, people like Jerry Goss, David Williams, Robert Rosario, Will Fox, they've all played down there. I remember one year, though, we beat them when Winnie Churchill was in charge, and they were not happy after the game. We had people like Danny Block playing, Barney scored a goal, Alan Barnard, and Nigel Cook scored for us, and we beat them 2-1. Although the last 20 minutes, it was like the siege at the Alamo, but they just couldn't put the ball in the net. Well, the next year they came down, they thrashed us 8-1. I've been secretary for over 37 years now, but I've put a lot in, but I've got a lot out, in as much that I've met so many people. I know their fathers have played for Beccles and their sons now played or have played for Beccles. The Beccles Hospital Cup is another thing that I've always been interested in running, and over the years I'm pleased to say that I've raised a few £1,000s for Beccles Hospital, and we've had some, you know, that's mainly been between Beccles, Loddon, Bungay, and either Lowestoft reserves or Kirkley and Pateville reserves. We used to get a good crowd down there, always used to get first team games. We would get 60 to 80 people all the time, no problem. Makes you wonder where football at our level is going. I mean, it's a lovely pitch to play on, isn't it? Nice stand, good changing room. They get their kit cleaned every week. There. But we're not the only club, other clubs suffer as well. I mean, you consider, you know, teams like CNF's Old Boys have folded. And they, at one time, a few years ago, they played Wycombe Wanderers in the FA Vars, and they beat them. And now they don't even exist. Norwich St John's, another side that's folded. Workwell, they've folded. And there are a number of sides that are not in the league now that were a few years ago. And it's the same old story, getting people to help out on the committee, which you can't seem to get. So that's the situation. And still, let's hope we get a win today. Gonna have my lunch now.